UKU here once again, this time bringing you an orc match in a 2v2 format. And something I noticed that I also like about this game is all the context-sensitive voice lines. The units will tell you when they're going into stealth cover, they will tell you when they're going into regular cover, they'll tell you when they're capping. Basically, you'll get told everything. They'll tell you when they're getting attacked, where they're getting attacked, who died, who got screwed. Basically, you get a lot of information with the announcers and the units themselves, so that's actually pretty useful. I will like that. I am using the classic triple slugger build. Just a classic that everybody loves to do in this game. A lot of people like even more sluggers, because sluggers basically kill every other starting unit in a 1v1 by attack movie, provided they can catch up to them. And if you can't, then you press Q, and your sluggers charge up Super Saiyan, and they just run very fast and get shields. So it can be very hard for noobs, and you will see that in this match. So there's just a little bit of orky gameplay, just a little while for everybody to appreciate. So we're just gathering my troops. I was expecting to see a Lissig post here, a bunch of Marines, but it looks like that this is how you can tell when you're facing someone who's kind of new, when they aren't putting any real pressure on the map. I would guess that he's actually just showing up the point there, his natural resource point, and he's not really thinking too much about this elite point. And actually myself, I think I don't actually think about it too much. Then I see, yeah, he's not even here right now, so this is definitely probably a new player that I am up against. But the match does showcase what a large orky army might look like towards the mid-game. It's actually pretty big compared to what I feel as the other races, so that's pretty, you know, it's pretty interesting that they actually managed to get that part right. I am actually building shooters now because I do have the doctrine that the shooters, when they loot, they themselves buy them without me having to tell them anything. Will throw bombs at enemies. So I finally see my Marine. He's actually cowering behind the turret, which is pretty smart by him. I do channel the orky ability there. And as you can see, they get a lot faster. They do get a shield. But since he runs into turret range, I decided I'm not going to follow him. I'm just going to deal as much damage to the objective as I can before having to retreat. And as you can see, we've already done a lot of damage to his shield generator. It's almost more than halfway down. And the orcs can take a lot of them. I think that in this game, just like in Dawn of War 2, if your units are doing melee animations, you take 50% less damage from ranged units, but I'm not too sure. So when you're using melee units, what you'll want to do is always target each individual ranged unit so that they all get punched in the face, and then they can't do anything about it. They can't defend themselves, they can't basically do nothing. We do lose a slugger because I looked elsewhere and he goes in the dumpster. And as such, I do get Death Watch thrown on me, so the shooters can't really deal with that. The Death Watch elites are very strong against ranged units. They deal tons and tons of ranged damage. Their slow grenade, if they shoot what's in their slow grenade, they will actually deal more damage. So you always want to escape as fast as possible. When you don't have an elite up and your enemy does, when your enemy has an elite that is way more powerful than yours, you do have to play very defensively until you get your own elite out. So if you go all late game elites, you gotta be prepared to play exceptionally well with your army, because fighting elites, perhaps even 2 or more, with just your army is a pretty daunting task. Although considering the quality of play that most people have right now, since nobody really has figured out how to play, it might be doable, but I don't think it's possible in the beta because you don't have the second night unit. Since all the races at this moment do have a alternate version of the Super Late Game Elite. The orcs have another one that is actually the Gorkana, I think, or is this one the Morkana? I'm not really sure, but it is what it is. And scrap, what towers do make scrap by themselves, and on Sluggas is pretty important because it actually makes them stun when they charge in. It turns them into Howling Banshees. So, cheaper Howling Banshees actually, it's like pretty crazy how much you get, how much value you get from it. And it also increases their HP. There, I move my Sluggas to the side to dodge their grenade there. And my shooters do take some damage, but it doesn't matter because as long as the Sluggas can make it in melee, they're actually fine. And you have to engage the Death Watch in melee because they actually suck at punching. Because they're actually very bad at it. As you can see there, they're taking tons into them. They will actually die because they're getting surrounded by the Sluggas. And that's actually obviously a very bad engagement by my opponent who did not try and kite. You always want to kite melee units, which he did not do. He does buy Assault Space Marines to out-melee my melee, but Assault Space Marines are actually pretty bad from a cost efficiency perspective against Sluggas. Sluggas are way cheaper, yet deal way more damage for their price. So Assault Space Marines are good against my shooters, but they can't really do anything against the Sluggas. But that's, you'll have to live and learn with that. They do hit my Sluggas pretty hard. Almost managed to kill one, but we're not gonna let that happen. As you can see there, he's stunned by the Sluggas coming in, preventing him from chasing down that Slugga in the end. I did buy some fast Duras. Duras are actually very expensive, but they're definitely worth it, because I've seen Death Guns and their AoE just destroy everything. So if you're an orc, you might want to get a few of those out when you can, or maybe you just want to get mobs first. The truck is also a pretty good purchase. It's only 25 power actually. It does absolutely 0 damage, but you can make it a reinforced point, and it does throw a melee unit on top of, might even be multiple melee units. I did try to put more than one in, and he can just throw them on Marines. So that's actually pretty good. Trucks are excellent with all of your melee. With all of your melee wants to be in the truck, getting tossed into Marines. They're the equivalent, I guess, of Storm Boys or Assault Marines for the orcs, where you just get them on the second barracks building, and you can get them pretty early. And there, I did not get the Weird Boy. I just went straight to the War Boss. I am using the ability that blocks shots so that my orcs can charge up their abilities without having to fear. But it looks like the War Boss by himself basically killed all the Marines. So this is what happens when you don't kite melee units. So when you're playing this game as a Space Marine and you are fighting the orcs, sometimes you do have to run away, or else you will die horribly. On the other hand, my ally is seemingly having a stalemate against the enemy orc player, where it looks like it was back and forth. So I'm having a pretty good time here. I'm actually gonna consider just pushing in to the turret after I kill his resources, because sometimes you get tunnel vision and you're like, well, let's go straight for the turret. But instead, I think it's smarter to try and choke out your opponent with by destroying all their money, all their resources, and that actually indirectly also helps your teammate, because then the guy he's fighting won't have such a big army. He won't have as many upgrades, and that will definitely help your teammate if he's struggling. I myself played, well, this only really happened in one match, but I played a match where I was doing pretty okay on my lane, but my ally got absolutely crushed. Like, he just got raped. The turret died at like 6 minutes or something, and the enemy I was fighting, an orc player, all of a sudden appeared with a absurdly large army where I basically could do nothing to defend myself from it, because it was just so huge. all of a sudden. And you know, when that happens, you get kind of fucked. That's all you can say about it. Find another Rubel's also. He actually had his forward base here, which is probably part of the reason he could not get an army in time to do much of anything. I will just send the war boss to punch the Death's Watch in the face. But I actually noticed that he stops hitting them for some reason. Like they just walk away there. And the war boss decides that he's just gonna sit there. He does his critical strike, and then he forgets that the Death Watch is there. I'm not sure what the heck that is about. Does his critical strike again, misses, but you know, that's just how it goes. Again, using my Sluggas to punch his melee while I kite with my rain. Since Assault Space Marines do want to punch shooters, and that's what Assault Space Marines are going to find in this matchup. That they're just going to have a really hard time getting through to actually finishing off ranged units because the orcs have such cheap, very tough melee that constantly slows the Assault Space Marine, constantly stuns them, and that's definitely, you know, that's a pretty big obstacle. And we're just going to stay here and punch some Marines. As you can see, no kiting whatsoever, and the Warboss himself just does massive amounts of damage. And I think he actually does a passive debuff on whatever he's punched. Like it does less damage. So if you're fighting a Force Commander or any hero, you can tell your Warboss to punch them, and it will actually do less damage to your units, which is pretty much what you want, because otherwise the Slugger boys are very fragile in the later stage of the game. You kind of have to accept that they're all just gonna die horribly, but the shooters are actually slightly more expensive. You don't want to lose those guys if you can help it, and the looters are definitely very expensive. Those guys are more like the other faction units, the heavy bolter guys and the Dark Reapers. They actually cost a lot of money. So those guys you definitely never want to lose under any circumstances, because you're gonna regret it. They honestly, I did have a match where the guy was spamming Ludas, and all I do was just drop a single disruption unit into them, and he fucks up, and they all die, and that was basically the end for him, because he had absolutely nothing remaining, because they're so expensive that you just end up with a small army with the Ludas, and when they die, back. And as you can see there, the flamethrowers are actually very strong against the orcs, and they actually slowed. He does have the doctrine, I think. I think that's a doctrine that makes flamethrowers deal slow and stuff. So it can actually be used against sluggers, as they will take massive amounts of AoE damage just going in. So if you're having problems with the orcs as a Space Marine, there you go. Just make a few, make some flamethrowers, you guys. And all these buildings make scrap. And I'm just gonna take the opportunity to upgrade all my units. The good thing about the doctrine that I have for the shooters is that they need no micro whatsoever. They just randomly throw a grenade like Dire Avengers. They will throw just a random grenade, and theirs actually does more damage than the Dire grenade. So that's actually pretty useful, since you don't need to micro them whatsoever, and your opponent has to micro against it. So I guess from that point of view, I don't like it too much. I do have the Big Mech, but I have absolutely no idea how he works. I think he can call down scrap, and he can turn them into turrets. But he has some other ability, but I could not get it to work. I have absolutely no idea what it does. But as you can see that you can also make vehicles from the remains of your opponent's buildings, which is what I did there. I did make the extra truck, and you just put the knobs in the party truck, and I'm gonna eventually upgrade this truck to reinforce my army. It can actually work like the Eldar Falcon, which reinforces units. And that's actually the point of the Falcon. I've seen a lot of people use it as a Space Marine tank, and that's not how it's supposed to work. Because the Falcon is like a support unit. It does deal a lot of anti-infantry damage, but it's not very tanky. It's not even particularly fast when it's in combat itself. You want to keep it back. I mean, you can keep it close enough to shoot, but you don't want it to be in so much immediate danger. You just want to keep it a little bit back, so that your Eldar forces can just walk back to it and reinforce all their units. very, very fast and very quickly. In the middle of combat even. So it gives you, it's like a forward base in a way. And here we're just gonna take some time to punch it. The turret, which does give you massive reach. And it looks like at the bottom, the enemy orc player is actually doing the same thing. To my, well, he's not yet at the turret, but he is destroying our allies' shield generator. So it looks like the orc is also having a pretty good time. I'm gonna finally move out with these Buddhas. A bunch of units that are low on HP, but this Space Marine player is not having a very good time. And as you can see, the turret actually does a lot of damage to heavy armor units, like these knobs, who I actually noticed that a lot of people don't seem aware how to deal damage to the knobs, but they do have heavy armor, so you do need anti-vehicle weapons to deal with those guys. Just so you know, that's what you need. You need anti-armor weapons, and guys like dreadnoughts punch knobs in the face very hard. They deal enormous amounts of damage to them. What you need is on the codex thing that does work in the learning section of the game. It will tell you the damage type of units, and what you need to fight knobs are things that deal armor piercing damage. You can actually upgrade your assault Space Marines with the lightsabers, the power swords, and they will actually deal very good damage against knobs. And let me see, Eldar, the Dark Reaper also deal very good damage against them, but knobs are melee units, so you can just walk in and punch them in the face. So you're gonna need something to keep the knobs off of you while your Dark Reapers deal all the damage they want. I guess you can buy Shadow Specters to deal with the knobs if you see fit, if you think it is necessary. But something I've seen is that melee units tend to have such raw high DPS numbers that they can sort of quote-unquote ignore heavy armor. And actually read up that I think this is how it works. Heavy armor blocks like 80 to no. Well, you actually normal damage does only 22% damage to heavy armor, and it's the other way around as well. Like armor piercing damage only does 20% of its damage to regular infantry, which is normal armor. So units that deal armor piercing damage actually kind of suck against regular units. But sometimes they deal so much damage that I guess it doesn't matter. Because in the case of dreadnoughts, for example, dreadnoughts deal armor piercing damage. So they'll actually destroy knobs, they'll actually destroy Wraith Guard and Wraith Blades, although Wraith Blades also deal armor piercing damage, so I'm not sure who wins that matchup, but armor piercing damage destroys heavy armor, but it also, well no, that's all it does. But in the case of some units, their DPS numbers are so high that they can still deal excellent damage and a lot of work against regular units, which is the case of the Dreadnought. The knobs themselves do only normal damage, I believe, so they're basically anti-infantry heavy armor units. Whereas I think the Orc melee vehicle, the Death Dread, actually does armor piercing damage. So if you want to punch knobs as an Orc in a cost-effective way, then what you need are to buy Death Dreads to counter his knobs. And here you see the wall mechanic actually lasts for a very long time. It gives your units a speed boost and I believe an attack speed buff. Well, not attack speed, attack damage buff. And we're gonna actually, these Terminators actually have heavy armor, I think. That's what I think, because again, these guys don't seem to show up in the Codex. So I don't actually know, but I just have a gigantic fleet of Orcs, and what's happening here is that I just have so much damage that I'm just overwhelming the poor Terminators. As you can see, they're not lasting very long here. The Warboss himself, I'm not sure what damage type he does, but he does have a power plot, and usually, and if he's like the Force Commander, it does deal true damage or armor piercing damage. And here I get attacked by the Orc. I'm just gonna use my range units, pull them back away from his death guns, and I'm gonna send my units over here. I'm not sure, I don't think he sent the entirety of his army. He sent a few units he attacked, moved them in, but he wasn't expecting me to have so many things here. It's so much that I'm actually not being able to keep up too much with it. I do send the knobs here. Remember, knobs deal regular damage, so they're actually going to be fighting vehicles, and they actually perform pretty well against them. As you're gonna see for yourselves, the knobs are actually tanking this like bosses. They actually do pretty good, but eventually they do go down. And I'm actually not watching too many opinions because I'm just paying attention to my map there for a bit, just wanting to use some of my abilities. At this point, it doesn't really matter what I do, but as you can see, the knobs are actually doing pretty good damage. Actually, all my units are concentrating fire, and they're actually slowly putting down this vehicle walker, which I can only assume does have he does have vehicle armor, and he even has a shield when he dies. The orc sends some mobs to punch my Ludas, so I have no choice but to kite them. And as you can see, their mobs are actually pretty slow. They're not as fast as the regular orc boys at chasing units there, and they get stunned because I do have some boys that have the loot, and that stuns. So the sluggers can be a impromptu solution to knobs because you can just stun them and then run away. It's actually focusing down my truck. Not sure why he would do that. Their trucks are actually very cheap. They only cost 25 power. So you can just do that. And actually, the stick bombs from my shooter boys are actually stun locking the knobs, and that's all without my own direct interference. They're doing it all by themselves because of the doctrine that I have that makes them better. And again, the pure damage output of those death guns combined with all my units is enough to soft counter the vehicles, so I wasn't completely and utterly fucked like it tends to happen, for example, in Dawn of War 2, where just one vehicle can force you to pull back an entire army because you don't have any anti-vehicle yet. It doesn't look like that's the way it works in this game, which I think I like, because it was kind of lame to have to lose the entirety of the map to basically just a light vehicle. Like, they actually had to nerf the Orc War Truck in Dawn of War 2 because it came out too early, and even though it did almost no damage, there was very little you could do about it. And I don't know what the heck happened there. Sometimes the game does get some light freeze, and I'm sure if it's lag or if it's my own computer. It doesn't happen too frequently, but it does happen. And I think that's what you saw there. I'm not sure what the heck that was about. More knobs, and as you can see, they are taking a lot of damage. It does take a while to bring them down, but single knob squad can't really destroy your entire army. And it looks like units actually prioritize the unit type that they're strong against. Because if you saw there, my orcs are actually sort of ignoring the knobs in favor of normal infantry that's in range. So that's pretty cool. At this point, I actually have the reinforcement points on my truck, so that's why I have 2 of them, since I can reinforce my army on it. But I have so many resources and so many things that it actually doesn't even matter. This is just what pure army size can do here. Fighting 2 players basically at the same time. One of them is actually not very good, but it is what it is. And my Eldar appears to be AFK because he's not paying any attention to anything that's going on. But you know what? That's sometimes that happens, you guys. It's just how it rolls. I do finally get some tank busters, and they will apparently deal very good damage to these knobs. So at this point, yeah, just one is enough with an army this big. Just one, because the knobs can't stand up to so much army. And yeah, like I said, the sluggers with their charge ability, and if they manage to get some scrap, then they themselves will continuously stun the knobs, and that's definitely not gonna make for a very happy fun time for them. And I see that the big mech is really sort of a support guy. You can just call down scrap on him, and you can keep basically all of your army with scrap. But from what I can tell, units that get a lot from scrap are basically first priority are the sluggers. I guess your heroes are also a priority. The Ludas, I think, have high priority, because I think when they get the loot, they actually slow. They get like a suppression effect on their guns. And finally, if you do have the same doctrine that I do, that buffs your shooters, then you also want to give them scraps so they just start auto spamming stick bombs by themselves. And the best part about it, their stick bombs actually deal significant amounts of damage. It's not like the plasma grenades from the Dire Avengers. They just sort of just seal some knockback. They don't do that much damage. I guess it's because you start with them. And with the orcs, you do have to sacrifice a little bit to obtain them finally. And I decided I'm just going to try and kill the research nodes, and wasn't very sure what the Eldar could accomplish, but apparently they've taken so much damage that the Eldar basically just attack move into their base and got all the glory of the ending kills. So yeah, I'm just denying their resources. He does have vehicles, but at this point my single squad of tank busters is more than enough to deal with his heavy armor units, and not to mention that I also have mobs of my own. So he only has like 1 or 2, whereas I have at this point like 3 squads of mobs. Just attack moving, killing anything, and I'm not even using their abilities. Mobs can actually taunt units, so they're very effective in that regard at getting the enemy's attention, which is of course their design. They are tanky units that are supposed to just walk in first, and then you just rush in with your sluggers behind them. So yeah, that's how it's supposed to work, I believe. They don't actually seem to get that much out of looting scrap. They get an ability, which is an immobilize slow, but in the middle of a big fight, you're not really going to be paying too much attention to that, so I don't even bother giving them any scrap. Just wasting all of my resources, but it doesn't really matter because it looks like this game is sort of in the bag. But just a small showcase of the pretty big orky army. A lot of people do tend to lose a lot of their units early on, so obviously because nobody has any practice. So getting into the higher populations is sort of rare, but I'm definitely seeing the power of the orcs. They're definitely somewhat A-move friendly, because shooters deal actually tons of damage. I think they deal as much damage as Dire Avengers without having the cooldown on their guns. The death guns destroy everything in their path, so they're definitely pretty strong, as are the melee units for the orcs. So yeah, that's just a short little orky game for you to enjoy before the game comes out, I guess.